Hi, I'm James, and today I want to tell you about the month that changed everything, the month my wife decided our 1-year-old daughter and I weren't worth staying for. The thing about betrayal is it doesn't always announce itself with a slam. Sometimes it arrives quietly, like the hiss of air leaving a tire you didn't know was punctured. That's how it felt standing in our bedroom doorway, watching my wife Melissa fold summer dresses into a suitcase at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday night. Our daughter Chloe was already asleep down the hall, her breathing crackling softly through the baby monitor on our nightstand, and Melissa was humming. Actually humming. Like packing to abandon your family for 30 days in Europe was something you did to a Taylor Swift song. "You're really doing this," I said. Not a question, a realization that landed heavy in my stomach. Melissa didn't look up. She folded a white linen blouse with the kind of precision that made me feel like an obstacle she'd already planned around. "We've talked about this, James. It's just a month. Chloe will be fine. You'll be fine. Just a month." Like time was something you could measure in Instagram stories and airport wine. Like our 15-month-old daughter wouldn't notice that the person who sang her to sleep every night had vanished into European plazas and Tuscan sunsets. "She's barely walking," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "She still wakes up crying for you at 2 in the morning." Melissa finally stopped packing. She turned to me with that look I'd started seeing more often lately, the one that said I was being dramatic, unreasonable, small. "James, you act like I'm abandoning her in a Walmart parking lot. You're her mother too. This is what co-parenting looks like." Co-parenting. That word sat wrong in my mouth, bitter and clinical. Co-parenting was something divorced people did, not married women who were supposed to be partners. But I swallowed the argument because I'd already had it 3 times. And each time, Melissa had a new reason why this trip was essential to her mental health, her identity, her relationship with her college friends who apparently couldn't reconnect over FaceTime like normal humans. The next morning, I drove her to the airport. Chloe was strapped in her car seat behind us, gnawing on a teething ring and staring out the window like she understood more than we gave her credit for. The highway stretched grey and endless under March clouds, and neither of us spoke until we hit the departure terminal. "I'll text when I land," Melissa said, already reaching for the door handle. "Melissa," my hand found hers. "Please, just think about what you're doing." For a second, one fragile, foolish second, I thought I saw doubt flicker across her face. Then she pulled her hand away and smiled, bright and final. "I love you both. But I need this." She kissed Chloe's forehead through the car window, grabbed her suitcase, and disappeared through the sliding glass doors without looking back. I sat there with the engine running and my daughter babbling nonsense syllables, and I realized something that would take weeks to fully articulate. Melissa had just chosen herself over us, and she expected me to applaud her for it. That first week was a baptism by fire and baby food. I'd always been involved. I changed diapers. I did bedtime stories. I took Chloe to the pediatrician when Melissa had to work late. But involved isn't the same as responsible. Involved is helping. Responsible is realizing at 11:30 at night that you're out of formula and the only store open is a gas station 20 minutes away where the fluorescent lights make you look like a ghost and the clerk doesn't make eye contact because everyone who shops at midnight has a story they're trying to forget. I kept a journal, not because I'm sentimental, but because I needed proof that I wasn't losing my mind. Day 3, Chloe spiked a fever. Took her to urgent care at 6 a.m. Melissa didn't respond to my text for 9 hours. When she finally did, it was a photo of her and 3 friends at some cafe in Barcelona. Cappuccinos arranged like a magazine spread. Her caption, "Finally breathing again." Day 7, Chloe wouldn't stop crying. Nothing worked, not the bottle, not the pacifier, not the lullabies I sang until my voice cracked. At 2 in the morning, I called my sister Rachel in desperation. She talked me through it with the patience of someone who'd survived 3 kids of her own. "She's scared," Rachel said gently. "She knows something's different. Just hold her. Let her know you're not going anywhere." So I did. I held my daughter in the rocking chair until dawn. Her hot little body pressed against my chest, her tears soaking through my shirt. And somewhere across the Atlantic Ocean, my wife was probably sleeping soundly in a hotel room that cost more than our mortgage payment. I started noticing the money around day 10. Our joint account, the one we'd always shared, the one we'd agreed was for family expenses, started showing charges that made my blood run cold. $273 at a restaurant in Rome, $418 at some boutique hotel in the French countryside, $89 for a cooking class in Florence. Meanwhile, I was buying generic diapers and skipping lunch to make sure we had enough for daycare. I was rationing my own coffee, reusing the same grounds twice because Melissa had taken our fun money and turned it into her European Renaissance. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I started taking screenshots. Every transaction, every timestamp, every smiling photo she posted while I was elbow deep in laundry at midnight. I saved them all in a folder I titled Evidence. Though I wasn't sure yet what I was building a case for, I just knew that something had shifted inside me. Something quiet and cold and permanent. By week 3, I'd stopped sleeping through the night, even when Chloe did. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the house settle around me, thinking about the 1,000 small ways Melissa had checked out of our marriage long before she boarded that plane. The way she'd started calling motherhood a season instead of a commitment. The way she talked about finding herself like she'd misplaced her identity in the diaper bag, instead of just refusing to grow up. One night, after Chloe finally went down, I called an attorney. Her name was Sharon Vega, and she'd been recommended by a guy I worked with who'd gone through a brutal divorce. I didn't tell Melissa. I didn't tell anyone except Rachel, who simply said, "Good. Protect yourself." Sharon's office smelled like coffee and old paper. She sat across from me with reading glasses perched on her nose and asked me one question that cracked me open. "James, do you believe your wife is coming back ready to be a parent? Or ready to be angry that you didn't make this easier for her?" I thought about Melissa's texts, the ones that asked how Chloe was doing, in the same breath as describing sunset views and wine tastings. I thought about the complete absence of urgency in her voice when I mentioned Chloe's fever, her teething pain, her nightmares. I thought about the woman I'd married and the stranger she'd become. "She's going to be angry," I said quietly. Sharon nodded like she'd heard this story 100 times. "Then let's make sure you're ready." We filed for temporary custody 3 days before Melissa's flight home. The papers were clean, unemotional, factual, primary caregiver for 30 consecutive days. Financial records showing sole responsibility for the child's needs. Documented evidence of minimal contact from the other parent. It wasn't revenge. It was protection. The night before Melissa came home, I couldn't eat. I sat at the kitchen table with Chloe in my lap, her sticky fingers reaching for my phone, and I felt the weight of what I'd done settle over me like a heavy coat. I wasn't trying to hurt Melissa. I was trying to make sure Chloe never felt abandoned again. Melissa's flight landed at 6:43 in the evening. She texted me from baggage claim. "Can't wait to see my girls. Order Thai food." I didn't respond. Instead, I fed Chloe her dinner, gave her a bath, and put her down in her crib with the same pink elephant she'd clutched every night for a month. Then I sat in the living room with every light on and waited. She arrived just after 8. I heard her key in the lock, that familiar scrape of metal on metal. Then silence, confusion. She tried again, harder this time, and I heard her voice through the door. Sharp with irritation. "James, why isn't the lock working?" I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. Melissa stood on our porch with her suitcase beside her, tan and rested, and completely unprepared for what was about to happen. I opened the door, but kept the chain on. "Hi, Melissa." Her eyes went wide. What's going on? Why is the chain on?" I handed her the manila envelope through the gap. "You should read this." She took it like it might bite her. I watched her face as she pulled out the custody order. Watched the color drain from her cheeks as she read the words, temporary sole custody and primary physical placement. "This is a joke," she whispered. But her voice cracked on the last word. "It's not," I said quietly. "You left for 30 days without looking back. You spent our money like it was yours alone. You treated Chloe like she was on pause while you played tourist. The court agrees that's not okay." Melissa's hands started shaking. "You went to court. Behind my back. You went to Europe behind mine," I said. "You made a choice. So did I." She started crying, then real tears, not the performance kind. "James, please. I didn't mean to, I just needed space." "I didn't think that's the problem," I interrupted. "You didn't think? Not about Chloe, not about me, not about what it would actually cost to pretend you didn't have a family." She pressed her palm against the door like she could push through it by force of will. "I'm her mother." "Then act like it," I said. "The order allows supervised visits. You want time with Chloe. You follow the schedule. You show up when you're supposed to. You stop treating parenthood like it's optional." Melissa slumped against the doorframe, her expensive luggage sitting useless at her feet. "I hate you right now. I know," I said, and I meant it, without anger, without satisfaction. Just fact. "But in 10 years, when Chloe asks why we're not together, I'll be able to tell her I chose her first. Can you?" I closed the door before she could answer. Inside, the house was quiet except for the soft static of the baby monitor. I walked to Chloe's room and stood in the doorway, watching her sleep. She looked so small, so fragile, so completely worth every hard decision I'd made. I never wanted revenge. I wanted justice. I wanted my daughter to grow up knowing that love means staying, even when staying is hard. Especially when staying is hard. Melissa eventually got a lawyer. We went to mediation. She cried, she apologized, she promised to do better. And, slowly, carefully, I let her back into Chloe's life. Not because she'd earned it, but because Chloe deserved a chance to know her mother, the real one. Not the Instagram version. The thing about boundaries is they don't feel good when you first set them. They feel cruel, unforgiving, final. But months later, when Melissa started showing up on time to her visits, when she started asking about Chloe's pediatrician appointments and teething schedules, when she started acting like a parent instead of a martyr, I realized that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's worst choices. If you're listening to this, and it feels familiar, if you've ever been the one left holding the pieces while someone else chased their freedom, I need you to hear me. You're not selfish for expecting partnership. You're not controlling for demanding accountability. And you're not wrong for protecting your child from someone who can't see past their own needs. Choose your kids first. Every time. Without apology. Because, at the end of the day, they're the only ones who can't choose to leave.